But first to a scandal that dominated the Victorian news cycle this week. No, it wasn't COVID or the economy, it was Collingwood and claims of institutional racism. Silly, silly Collingwood. What did they think was going to happen when they appointed a couple of virulent, race-obsessed activists who see racism everywhere to conduct a report into allegations of racism at the club? Not surprisingly, the 35-page report found systematic racism within the Collingwood Football Club that must be addressed if things are to change. Now, I was eager to read about these damaging, dangerous incidents of racism and the club's failure in the modern era. But the report simply rehashes a few isolated cases from up to 50 years ago without uncovering a single new incident, exposing any patterns of behaviour or structures that are discriminatory. Indeed, the recent incidents from the past 20 years are few and far between. So much for systematic racism. The findings by identity politics-obsessed academics will cause Collingwood significant reputational damage and may lead to further legal action from former players. I did try to warn them back in July that this review would end in tears. Writing in the Herald Sun, I reminded Collingwood that the Sydney academic that appointed was highly divisive and had made headlines in 2011 for describing respected Indigenous anti-violence campaigner Bess Price as being more offensive than bestiality. Those comments devastated Price and prompted Indigenous academic Marsha Langton to describe Bernhardt as assuming the role of superior thinker whose grand education and positions in the metropolis qualify them to heap contempt on the natives. Now, this report into Collingwood is also co-authored by another academic, Mr. Coombs, whose Twitter page gives an insight into the victimhood culture and racial politics he subscribes to, including regular attacks against Indigenous leaders, including respected academic Dr. Anthony Dillon, former National President of the Labor Party and SBS board member Warren Mundine, and anti-violence campaigner and Centre for Independent Studies scholar Jacinta Price. Either the Integrity Committee for Collingwood didn't do their research into these appointments, or this is precisely the result they wanted, so they could clear out certain individuals from the club. Or perhaps they have drunk the woke Kool-Aid and believe that Australia and everything in it, including their club, is inherently racist. If there is systematic racism at Collingwood, this report fails to detail the incidents, practices and culture that makes that finding valid. The report will no doubt provide plenty of fodder for the semi-literate lefties in the sports media, but anybody familiar with the authors would take the findings with a grain of salt.